Well, what a game of football that was. The emotions are up and down. They're all over the place, but it did finish Tottenham 2, Liverpool 2 at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium with an equaliser from Son, ending up being the decisive goal in that game, but a bizarre game from first minute to last. Look, it's easy to come on here and be incredibly frustrated with the chances we missed, with the some decisions that were made throughout the game. That Liverpool goal. I know Liverpool, of course, have reason to be frustrated with the officiating as well. But we're going to try to focus on the positives first of all, because I think there are so many to take from that game. But before we do that, if you are new to the channel, as always, please do make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more content like this and transfer news all throughout the month of January. But look, we'll go to the starting 11s rather, to start with. Two teams that have been riddled with COVID over the last couple of weeks. Liverpool definitely, not a lot more recently than Spurs. They announced pre-game that Thiago Alcantara had also tested positive for COVID. Jordan Henderson was out with a non-COVID related illness, so their midfield was depleted, but Tottenham's certainly was as well. It was Hugo Lloris in goal, a back five of Emerson Royal, Davinson Sanchez, Eric Dyer, Ben Davis and Ryan Sessegnon, who was in for Sergio Reguilon, who of course picked up an injury on our last Premier League game a couple of weeks ago. A midfield three of Tanguy Ndombele, Harry Winks and Dele Alli, which, look, I think on the four of it looked very, very worrying, and one that could end up being troublesome for Tottenham. But as we move into later in the game, I thought there were a few standout performers in that midfield. And up top as well, Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. Options for the bench were a bit more wholesome, I suppose, than we would have expected, with the likes of Sergio Reguilon, Giovanni Lo Celso, Stephen Bergwijn, Lucas Moura and Oliver Sleep on the bench as well. Liverpool started with Alisson Becker in goal, Alexander Arnold, Joel Matip, Ibrahima Konate and Andy Robertson. A midfield of Naby Keita, Tyler Morton and James Milner, and then Mohamed Salah, Diogo Jota and Sadio Mane up top. So two teams that would have preferred, of course, much stronger 11s out there, but two teams that I think performed really well throughout the time. Anyway, we go to the comments here. Robert Ayres says, on chances, we definitely should have won, but we've come a long way, and it's a great. That's kind of the general gist of what I'll be talking about in this. We have come a long way with 2 weeks off, with the injuries that we have to Romero and Reguilon as well. We'd our first Premier League game without Pierre-Emile Højbjerg since he actually joined the club. Everything really pointed towards a comfortable victory for Liverpool, and it really was anything but comfortable throughout the entire game. Yassine says, we got robbed. We should have had 2 penalties. If we go with the logic that the people in Sky Sports had, if Gary was like, no penalty. Look, once Gary Neville starts talking, I stop listening. It's as simple as that. The man is an absolute fool. At one time there, he compared Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold to Roberto Carlos and Cafu, which is just ridiculous. Adam says, opinion on Latics legend Paul Tierney. Oh God! If I give my genuine opinions on that refereeing, I think I might get demonetized here. So we may move past that one. Cheers for tuning in, though, Adam. We've Dean there as well. Of course, we've Dean. Josh said we should have won. To be honest, Konate handball. How is that not a pen? But anyways, let's move on to West Ham and beat them. Good point. Liverpool should have had a penalty. Dean says, thoughts on Liverpool getting robbed? Never a red and stolen ball, penalty not given. Contact is not a foul. There's a handball in the build up to your second goal, and we could arguably have had a penalty as well. So if you're going to come in here and look at that performance from your team, and the first thing you're saying is, the refereeing was all wrong, then you support the right team, Dean. I'll tell you that much. Jason says Harry Kane is Boris Johnson on a football pitch. Oh God. Look, I feared the absolute worst at the start of that game. Within a minute, Andy Robertson having that header on the edge of the box, Davinson Sanchez giving him way too much space. And from that moment, I thought all my fears for this game going into it had been confirmed, in that it would be a fairly comfortable victory for Liverpool, who of course have played more recently than us, are in better form than us, have the best player in the world right now on form in Mohamed Salah up top as well. And it looked as though it was just going to be that way. But whatever it was about that team, that Spurs team today, every time we got forward, the urgency, the intensity, the passing was absolutely fantastic. There was so much work going through that midfield with Dele Alli and Harry Winks, who, look, I was critical of Dele Alli in the first half, and I do think he lost possession a lot more than the players around him, and that maybe stood out. I don't think it was in the way of the way he used to, in terms of making these really risky passes going forward, like these ones trying to cut open the defence. I don't think it was like losing possession like that, but I thought he was a bit sloppy, and he could have done a lot better. In the second half, he really, really improved. And I'll talk about the sub in a minute, because when Ndombele was taken off, I was a bit kind of confused as to why Dele Alli wasn't, because he was already on the yellow card and had already been given his last warning by Paul Tierney. But Ali was incredible. Winks was so good. Ndombele, I thought he was better than people are giving him credit for. And then that front three, or that front two rather, with Kane and Son, they were back to their very, very best, except for when it came to putting the ball in the back of the net. And that was the story from first minute to last for Tottenham. We had one proper chance, I suppose, before the goal where Kane got the ball put in from the right-hand side on the edge of the 6-yard box, tried to swivel, and it was a very good block by Conte. And a couple of minutes later, some good work by Winks. Harry Kane, or Ndombele, plays a very good ball through to Harry Kane. And one of the good points that Neville made in commentary was that Ndombele, the weight of that pass from him every single time is absolutely perfect, and Kane just slotted it into the bottom corner. And look, I was hoping from there, maybe a bit optimistically, that could be a bit of a catalyst for Harry Kane in terms of his luck in front of goal this season, in terms of his end product. I said it could be, on a personal level, one of the most important goals of his career, because he's gone, was it one goal in his last, I think, 12 Premier League appearances this season. Things really hadn't been going for him in any way whatsoever. And I hoped that could be a catalyst. But I think if the rest of that game is anything to go by, it certainly wasn't, because he had so many chances. That header from the corner, I think, was probably the last one he got with about 15, 20 minutes to go, which I think is just a kind of a good summary of the game that he had in front of goal. But in terms of the actual possession that we had, we were so good. The cutting edge was back. Liverpool could not deal with us. And I know it was a depleted Liverpool side with a weaker midfield than usual, with Tyler Morton in a position where they usually have Jordan Henderson or Thiago, or simply a more experienced player. I thought Morton played well for his age and for what he was asked to do, but I thought Tottenham made it a lot more difficult for him than it should have been. And again, missing Van Dijk at the back, fair enough. You're not going to be as good as usual. The line, I thought, was a bit high considering they were missing Van Dijk and how good Tottenham were going forward. But you can sit here and say Liverpool were poor in those departments, but I thought Tottenham made them poor. And on another day, we go out and we win that game. We have 3-4 before half time. But maybe instead of another day, it's against another club, because it's just the luck we have against Liverpool. And I really don't understand it. I will never understand it. Martin, becoming a YouTube member, thank you so much for that, Martin. I really, really do appreciate it. Welcome back. It's just the luck that we have against Liverpool. And it felt so much, every chance that we missed, that it was just pointing more and more towards Liverpool going on and getting the winner. And they had chances. I thought that intervention from Davinson Sanchez right at the last minute when Tsimikas got in down the left-hand side, I thought he delayed that pass a bit too much. He should have whipped it into Salah a bit earlier. But the intervention from Sanchez was, it saved us a point. It stopped Liverpool from winning, because if that ball reaches Salah, it's a goal. And it's as simple as that. From a defensive standpoint, I do think we did quite well in actually nullifying Salah throughout that game, because there was no moments where Salah, kind of got in behind and got on possession. There was no times that he was kind of facing up our defensive line, and thinking he can cut in here and he can score. There was never that fear, as there is whenever Salah gets the ball. I think there was, of course, that fear where you're thinking if Salah gets that chance, he'll put it away in the same kind of way that we're missing these chances. But I think in terms of actually getting in possession with him, with Jota, with Mane, there were very, very few moments when you thought, well, this is it, they're going to get their goal here. But it always felt as though it was inevitable, and it was a good chip into the box to Diogo Jota, who headed it past Lloris. A very good header from him, and it just felt, this is it. This is always what happens when we play against Liverpool. It felt like the same thing was going to happen again. And I think where we failed against Liverpool in recent years in these exact situations was when that goal goes in, the heads drop, the performance drops, and we just allow Liverpool to then regain control of the game and to start dominating them in the way that we were doing, or dominating us in the way that we were doing to them. And the mentality was fantastic, and that we didn't really allow that to happen. I felt towards the end of that first half, we had kind of sat back a little bit. We'd taken the foot off the pedal, and we were playing, again, just a typical Liverpool game. But we came out in that second half fighting absolutely fantastically, and we started that second half the way we played the majority of the first. Dara says, is Harry Kane still a fraud? Opinions. Harry Kane's not a fraud. He's a very, very out of form player. I'm never going to sit here and say Harry Kane is a fraud. And look, if you see who agrees with you in that chat, I think that'll tell you all you need to know. But he was just incredibly wasteful, and the chances continued then into the second half. And there's a few moments when Harry Kane had the chance to play the ball into Son, and that final pass in the second half was lacking a little bit, but I don't think you can put that in as a criticism, because in the first half, all of those passes were absolutely perfect. Didn't even mention that Dele Alli chance at the end of the first half. I lost my mind when initially it looked as though it had gone wide. I was already frustrated with Ali. He, like I mentioned, he was just losing possession a little bit, but it was a good ball over the top, and I felt for not the first time in the game, the Son has kind of left the ball behind him, and Liverpool were getting back very well. But I think it was really, really good play from Kane and Son. Kane, in terms of making that decoy run, which I think initially was trying to create that space for Heung-min Son to put in onto his left foot. We know he's as dangerous on his left as he is on his right, but Dele Alli with a fantastic run, and Son disguised that pass so well, just reversing it back into the path of Dele Alli. And you're thinking at that point, goal. It just seems as simple as that. I think that would have been to put us 2-0 up. And it's certainly a very different game from that point if we do get that goal. But incredible save from Alisson. I still think Ali needs to score there. You know, the way when that ball's rolling into him, he's opened his body up way too much, and you can see, you know, exactly where he's going to try and put that. And Alisson read it. Again, brilliant save, but I think Ali just made it a little bit easier for him. We were here saying, so frustrating with Ali doing all the things except finishing. I love Conte, but all his subs are pointless this time. I don't agree with that. I thought when we made that first sub, we saw it was Oliver Skipp coming on. I can see why of course I can see why Ndombele went off. He was the least impressive of the three midfielders, and from a tactical sort of standpoint as well, you don't want to bring off Dele Alli, who's your most attacking threat from the midfield. You don't want to replace him with Oliver Skipp. Now Skipp isn't exactly a defensive midfielder, especially within that setup that we were playing today. But you don't want to take away that threat that was really causing problems for Trent Alexander-Arnold, who I don't think could have attacked as much as he wanted, because knowing that Dele Alli playing that left centre midfield role, but at times was much more advanced than the other two in there. It was just a little thought in Trent's mind. I think that worked really well. I felt at the time that maybe a different sub should have been made. Maybe that was the moment to make the Lucas for Ali sub, because Ali booked for a silly foul in the first half and had just been warned by Paul Tierney. I think Tierney went over and he counted out 4 fouls and he said no more. And you're thinking, well, Ali's on his last warning. But Ali from that point managed to just kind of calm himself down a little bit. He wasn't flying into challenges like he was earlier in the game. And then Lucas came on for him, which I thought was a very clever sub, because Lucas then could kind of play in a more central role than what Dele Alli was playing. And we had that threat on the transition. We had that threat of whenever we get the ball, you know, we turned into the space in between the defence and midfield, and we were just running from there. And if you're running at a team on the counter attack like that, there's not many players that you want to pick ahead of Lucas Moura. And I thought he was a good addition there. But whatever happened, whatever way the game kind of changed, I think we really struggled to get him in those positions. And a lot of the time he felt as though he was kind of dropping a little bit deeper to pick up possession. And we didn't really benefit from what we thought we were going to get with bringing Lucas on. On the point here of the VAR decisions, Dara, a good friend of mine, Liverpool fan, says, I was fine with Kane getting a yellow. What bothers me is that it's a worse challenge than Robertson's, as is the case often in the Premier League. Inconsistency is what makes the refereeing so subpar. Look, I completely agree with what you're saying there with the lack of consistency. That is absolutely 100% spot on. I thought Kane should have walked. I don't think Robertson should have. And that may be a controversial opinion now with 96 Spurs fans watching me. I think that may be one that doesn't really go down well. You want consistency in the Premier League. I've seen players get sent off every week with the foul that Harry Kane made. It wasn't a foul with any sort of aggressive intent, or it wasn't a foul where he was trying to hurt Robertson. It was a foul where the emotion and the kind of heated nature of the occasion kind of got to him, and he for a split second thought that ball was there for him to win. And he went in for it, and Robertson got there first. Yassine says, remember Robertson's tackle against Jaffet? He didn't get a single yellow card for that either. Well, for me, that's the exact same tackle, and I said back then that Robertson should have been sent off. I think the Robertson one on Tanganga looks a little bit different and looks more dangerous because Tanganga's foot was planted, whereas the approach to that tackle and the actual tackle itself from Kane and Robertson is the exact same. And I think if we're going to say, as we have been saying for the last 2 years, that Robertson should be sent off for that one 2 years ago, I think we have to say the same about Kane today. And look, I'm of course absolutely delighted he wasn't sent off, because if he is, Liverpool win that game. There's no doubt about that. But I think that was the incorrect decision from Paul Tierney to let Kane stay on the field. In the Robertson one, that was an aggressive one. That is one where he went in to try and hurt the player. He went in, you know, he came out of a claim and he won the ball. He absolutely didn't. He went in to clatter Emerson Royale. But you also see those challenges quite a bit in the Premier League. You also see players going like that, not trying to win the ball, but it wasn't studs over the ball. All he's going to do there is hurt Emerson. He's not going to injure him. He's not going to break an ankle. He's not going to break a leg. I personally do not think that was a red card. And again, maybe a controversial opinion. Please let me know your arguments if you disagree with me there in the chat. But I really don't think it was. And what I do want to go back to the point that I said there are reasons for both teams to be aggrieved with the refereeing decisions that were made there, because if that the touch of Mohamed Salah's arm in that first goal isn't directly influencing the goal, then I don't know what is. I really don't, because he heads it down into his arm. And look, there's an argument to say if it didn't hit his arm, it drops at his feet and he scores anyway. But it didn't. The ball hitting his arm completely changed that phase of play, completely changed what was happening there. And it's a blatant handball that interferes with the goal. Lloris then slaps it out to Trent, who squares it for Robertson. And I think that goal should have been disallowed. We were absolutely gifted by Alisson in terms of getting that equaliser with a good through ball again, putting Son in behind. Alisson read it really well, got out really well, tried to put his foot through it and messed it up in what was a brilliant performance from him. But that was a stroke of luck that Tottenham absolutely deserved. Without any shadow of a doubt, we deserved that luck. And from then on, of course, then Robertson goes and gets himself sent off. From then, it's simply Liverpool parking the bus. And one of the things that annoyed me the most in this game, absolutely, like you look at all the chances Tottenham missed, the refereeing decisions, the kind of worrying moments defensively at times. The thing that annoyed me the most was Martin Tyler sitting in the gantry saying, "Oh, all credit to Liverpool going out and trying to win this game. They're risking defeat to try and win the game," when they're literally parking the bus. They're wasting 25 minutes every time the ball goes off the pitch, and they take off 2 attackers for 2 defenders. I mean, how can you sit there and say they're trying to go and win this game? That really, really got to me. But not a criticism of Liverpool, just a criticism of whatever the hell Martin Tyler thinks he's doing in a commentary box anymore. We would have done the exact same thing, and Liverpool from that point really did. They really managed the game quite well and kept Spurs down to very few, if any, chances. And you just knew kind of from the 85th minute onwards that it was going to peter out to a 2-2 draw. Despite the 6 minutes being added on, I think gave us all a little bit of a boost and all a bit of a bit of excitement and hope that something could happen. But it was petering out to that 2-2 from there. But it's hard to look back at this game and not be upset that we haven't come out of there with 3 points, because we had the chances to do so. I was looking at the XG there before I came on, which I do forget, but Spurs absolutely dominated it, and everyone's looking at the shots and saying Liverpool had twice as many shots as Tottenham. Fair enough, you did, but the quality of the shots were completely different. In the XG, Tottenham 2.62, Liverpool 1.52. It just goes to show how good the chances we had were. Again, Alisson did really well, but we were just really wasteful in front of goal. And it's a nice problem to have, given where we were 6 weeks ago, where we went 3.5 Premier League games without a shot on target. It's a massive change. It's a massive difference. Again, on the back of what was an incredibly difficult couple of weeks for the club, having the COVID cases absolutely ravaged the first team, the under-23s, and the coaching staff, going 2 weeks without a game. I don't know where that match fitness came out of for us to keep fighting until the last minute, but somehow it did. And it's all credit to that squad. It's mostly credit to Antonio Conte, because you could not envisage anything like that from those players that were out in the football pitch when you look back at even just Nuno's last game for the club against Man United. Even if you go back and look at the games that we won, look at that victory against Manchester City, who are arguably a better team than Liverpool. When we went out and beat them on that day, you still couldn't imagine us taking a game to Liverpool like we did today. And I know Liverpool fans are saying it's typical, parking the bus and playing on the counter attack, but it's not a negative tactic, or it's not something to be criticised when you're kind of realising, well, the players that you have in your front three are better than the defenders that we have in our back three. So why wouldn't we sit back and defend? And why wouldn't we nullify year threat before then going on and trying to get things on the other end? And it worked. You can't argue that it didn't work, because we had more chances, we had better chances. And like I said, we could have been 2, 3, 4, 5-0 up in that game by half-time, by 60 minutes. Guha saying there, Matt, love your content, if I can try to get that comment up. But thought you were a bit harsh on Dele today. He had a good game. Look, I'm still going to stick by what I said. First of all, thanks for the comment, Guha. I appreciate that. I'm going to stick to what I said, in that I was disappointed with Ali in the first half. I thought he's wasteful in possession. I thought he made quite a few rash decisions, like that yellow card he picked up just simply shouldn't have happened. He should have scored from that chance that Alisson did really well to tip around the post. In the second half, he was a lot better, and I thought he was much more of a threat in that second half. And like I mentioned earlier, from a tactical standpoint, his kind of positioning, and that he was playing in that midfield three, but he was a little bit more advanced out in that left-hand side, and it just gave Trent Alexander-Arnold quite a bit to think about. So I think on the ball in the first half, I still wasn't quite happy with him. His defensive work, I think, is the same as what it always is with him, in that the effort is 100% there, but the kind of know-how and the ability is just a little bit lacking defensively. I think from pressing out of possession, which I would class more as an offensive side to his game, I would I would praise that. But you say there, I thought Delhi didn't get booked. Someone said the same to me on Twitter, but for the foul out on that left hand side, am I looking at it now? He didn't, but there was a foul out on that left hand side at one point. I forget who it was on, but it was right up in the sideline, and he kind of went through the back of the player that was there. I was 99.9% sure the referee pulled out the yellow card for him, but he mustn't have, which I suppose kind of eliminates my my thoughts there in that first substitution. But still, a few silly fouls, but a lot more improved in the second half. And we knew he has something to fight for today, in that we've heard in the last week or so that he's apparently been told he can leave the club. I don't think that performance today on its own is enough to say he deserves to stay, because we've seen this from him before, and I think he still has a lot more to prove if he is going to stay, and there's not much time to do it with 12 days until the opening of the January transfer window. Brian Daigle, good to see you in the house. There it is, the chant, Matty Hayes. This is what a great game and what an incredible performance, Brian. I couldn't agree more. The only thing I'm annoyed about, as I'm sure you are the same, is the that scoreline there, the 2-2. Smokehouse Deuces, what do you think of Sessegnon, Matt? I thought he had a good game. Look, like I said, the threat from Salah wasn't there at all. He never got on the ball, same as what I was saying earlier. And Sessegnon has to take credit for that, because he was the man out there defending Salah most of all. I know he would have had a lot of help from Davis and a bit of help from Dele Alli as well. But the fact that Salah didn't really have much to say in that game, I think is a massive compliment to Ryan Sessegnon. And going forward, I thought he was good as well. There was that chance very early on where the ball was pinged right over from Eric Dyer, I think from a free kick or something, and Sessegnon took a little bit of a loose touch, and Trent did well to clear it away. But that threat was there from Sessegnon, which, we expect from Sergio Reguilon, and we thought we'd be lacking with Reguilon not being in that team. But Sessegnon kept that threat in there, and there's a few balls he got across the box. For a player who hasn't played in the Premier League in 2 years, hasn't started in the Premier League for 2 years, I think was a very, very good performance, and something that really is there to build on. And not only do we benefit from him getting back into that first team, we're now in a system where players like him have really thrived in recent years, where we know he can be at his best in that left wing back position. And we sent him to Hoffenheim last season to actually grow in that position. So for him personally, there is that massive benefit there. There's also that challenge for Sergio Reguilon, whose position last season was really, no matter how you play, you're going to have to start, because Ben Davies doesn't really have the legs to play out there anymore. And Sessegnon, he was out on loan when he came back. He just wasn't really anywhere near that first team. So it's a massive benefit for Tottenham. And I think Reguilon will be a little bit worried in that, picking up that injury against Leeds, that Sessegnon then can come in and perform or against Norwich, and Sessegnon can come in and perform to such a high level. I do think Reguilon will be worried. Jason says, is Emerson always that bad? You know what? I can't say I noticed much of Emerson, of his performance today. When he got on the ball going forward, his crosses were blocked, they were overhit, they were underhit. He wasn't too good in possession. But Emerson has been one of our most improved players this season, I would say. And I know we only signed him this year, but from the level he was at when he first came into where he has been in the last couple of weeks, he has been better than what he was today. I'll say that much. But I can see why defensively, I suppose, is a struggle for him. I know he got a yellow card for that foul on Mane, but he's better than he showed today, that's for sure. Yassine here says, I bet Conte made Winks stay after training, telling him to play forward passes. Winks was good today. Winks was absolutely ridiculous today, not in terms of an overall standard of performance, but in terms of where he usually is and where he was now. I thought he was so good in that midfield. And again, we do have to mention, unfortunately, let's be realistic here, the quality of midfield that we were playing against. It was Milner, Keita and Morton. That makes it a lot easier. If that had been Thiago, Henderson and whoever it is, Fabinho, who play in there, it's a very different story and it's a very different game altogether. But you can only play what's in front of you, and I thought Winks did that very well, both in and out of possession. He kind of at times played that role that I've been speaking about with him before, where he was kind of being that metronome. And sorry, I see the reaction here from Duff, saying Robertson shouldn't have been sent off. He almost broke Emerson's leg. I wouldn't say he almost broke Emerson's leg. I wouldn't go that far. It was a rash challenge, but like I mentioned earlier, I'm not entirely sure that should have been a red card. Duff saying there what he feels about that one. But yeah, Winks really, really improved. But I'd make the argument with Ryan Sessegnon that he can fight for that place to get in ahead of Sergio Reguilon. I'm not really sure that place is there for Harry Winks, because you have Oliver Skipp, who of course came on and played well when he came back in. You've Højbjerg, who we have to assume was missing, whether he still has COVID or whether he's recovered from it. That's where you'd imagine he is. You've Ndombele, who I think is going to be an important player for Antonio Conte. Is that place really there for Winks to fight for it, and also looking at what I think we're going to do in January, which is bring in a number 10 and play someone a little bit more advanced. All of a sudden, 3 places for Winks drops down to 2, and Højbjerg and Skipper without a shadow of a doubt the first name on that team sheet if we do play that too. So he may have a bit more work to do than Sessegnon to try and get into that first team. I'm trying to think of players that I haven't mentioned. Lloris I thought was very good, made a few very important saves. Not much he could have done for the 2 goals. You can say with the second one, he kind of in the past has been a keeper who isn't really the best at tipping things out of danger. And I think with that slap away from whoever it was to give it out to Trent for that goal, maybe he could have put that in a different area, but it was a split-second decision. I think he did well in the first instance to actually get that ball away from the attacker. So I wouldn't be critical of him there, but he also deserves credit in the nullifying of Salah today, because there was a few good balls that were played out to that right. Remember one from Tyler Morton in the first 10 minutes where Lloris was very quick off his line. Even though the ball had ran past Salah and it wasn't going to be a direct goal scoring opportunity, he managed to get out there and sweep up very well, which prevented Salah from regaining possession and trying to keep that attack ticking over. He was very good off his line. He was good at crosses as well. I thought he played really well. Defensively, solid. Still look for improvements in January, but we did the job as not as best as we could today, but to a level higher than what I would have been expecting as well. I see a few people asking about man of the match, and I saw a tweet. I think it was from Andrew Stetka, a good friend of the channel, where he said, it's always good to, or it's a nice change to have look at a Spurs game and not be able to choose man of the match because they were all so good, rather than with the norm that we're used to. Winks definitely deserves a shout. Kane, if he hadn't been so wasteful, if it had just stuck to that 1 or 2 chances he created to Son, that goal, maybe 1 or 2 misses, maybe you could put him there. But I think with the amount of chances he missed, he probably drops down in that ranking because of that. But maybe purely for the shock factor, I'll just give it to Harry Winks, to be honest, because he's Harry Winks, and he was very, very good out there. And again, I will mention it. Let's be wary of who we were playing. And I'm trying to look for a few comments here from Antonio Conte after the game, because I'm sure he will have quite a few good quotes. And the first thing I see here is Jurgen Klopp going up to the referee after the game and apparently saying, "I have no problems with any referees, only you. You have never played football." If that is what Jurgen Klopp said to any other manager would have been sent off that touchline today, and any other manager will be fined for what Jurgen Klopp has apparently just said to the ref. But because it's Klopp and because it's passion and because he's all great in this, there probably won't be anything. But I can see where Klopp's frustrations were, but you have to know how to conduct yourself on the sideline. I thought he crossed quite a few lines there. There doesn't seem to be any comments yet from Antonio Conte, but we'll be keeping a close eye out for them. But look, all in all, a good but frustrating day for Tottenham. And I think the title of the stream sums it up. What a performance, but 2 points dropped because we did the hard bit. We controlled the game, not in your classical way of having more possession, but in that we were always comfortable with the way things were developing, and we were always the more dangerous team when we got forward. So I would say 2 points drop, but so many positives to take, such an improvement. And to be honest, I'm feeling a lot better now than I was 30 minutes ago before I started the stream, because I've kind of vocalized the positives that I noticed within that game today. And there will always be that frustration that we didn't go on and win. We always seem to have this feeling after we play Liverpool, but thankfully it wasn't a last minute winner. It very well could have been a winner for Andy Robertson if Alisson hadn't helped us out with that equaliser. And Son, let's not lie, we were all thinking he was going to miss. We all had that fear with that open goal that he was going to put it wide. And I think he had the same based on how tentatively he struck that ball. Look, we will wrap it up there. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the stream. I'll take a quick look. We've over 2,300 people tuning in throughout the stream. Still 230 of you available, or 230 watching, but there are only 59 likes. So please, if you haven't hit that like button, do make sure to press it and go down just a little bit below that to the big red button and hit that subscribe button. It's a red button on a Spurs channel, so you can take it away from being red. You can turn it grey if you press it. So I think if you're a true Spurs fan, you wouldn't want any red around here. So I would advise you to press that subscribe button. But for now, as always, thank you so much for watching.